Welcome to the first episode of a new series of Run With. Today I am talking to Rob Steger. He is the author of Training for Ultra and has a whopping 27 ultras under his belt already. He is an author, filmmaker, ultra runner and podcast host, and he talks to me today about his experiences and what's next for him with his new film due to be released soon, The Funny Runner. Hello Rob, and welcome to Run With.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm really good. We were just saying it's a bit early for you over there. Where are you at the moment?
Denver, Colorado.
Denver.
So mountain times, typically it's earlier for us regardless in the States. So
so it's 9
no
o'clock
worries.
over there for you. And you very kindly agreed to come on, and we're going to talk all things running, ultra running, your story, and all the inspirational, positive things that you do, because you do so much. You are a great guy and you have so many strings. You are a runner, an author, you host a podcast, you're a filmmaker, and all of these things I want to touch upon. But let's start today. Shall we start with the reason why you started running?
Yeah, I mean it's in the book, but I started running after my dad's giant health scare. He was very fortunate. He had a 99% blockage on the left side, I believe, of his heart. They call it the widowmaker. So you can't be resuscitated if you have a heart attack with that condition. So, and I feel like it was yesterday. We were cutting some branches, and the next day he went to the hospital and they rushed him to the emergency room. And I panicked after that because I knew I had super high blood pressure. I was headed down that path and I had to make a change. And so that was the catalyst that started all of this. I mean, I had read one running book prior, which was Dean Karnazes' Ultra Marathon Man.
Yeah, great
and
book.
I was inspired enough to buy running shoes, and I couldn't run more than a mile. It was a few years out of college. I was almost 200 pounds, and I had extremely bad shin splints to the point where, half a mile in, about 0.8, I just couldn't take the pain anymore. And I have a high pain tolerance. So just put that to the side and just questioned myself why I couldn't do that. And was sort of envious anytime I drove past runners or whatever. But after my dad's health scare, I changed my diet. I lost right around 50 pounds and started running once I lost that weight.
Yeah, and it wasn't actually that long ago.
No, not at all. I want to say 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
So in running terms and kind of careers in running and things like that, you're still relatively new to the sport. Yeah,
Relatively. I mean, I've thrown myself in with everything
you should have
that I have.
Yeah.
And I've gained probably a lifetime of experience, just a lot of times out of sheer stupidity and just not having been taught much, but also reading every single book I could get my hands on about running, ultras, trails, and just not being scared to fail. Because at the time when I started, my benchmark was the old version of me, 200 pounds, couldn't run 1 mile. So the bar was pretty low.
Yeah, but it is an amazing turnaround what you have gone through. And I say that you've kind of you haven't been running for a long time, but in that time you have crammed in amazing feats. And I do want to touch upon some of the things that you have done. I have watched is it a docu-series on Amazon? Yeah, and that was incredibly inspiring. In fact, I was watching that thinking, oh wow, I want to do this. You sold it very well. I would say the pain and the the highs and the lows of ultra marathons, but we will get there. So your dad, because of your dad's health issues, that made a big turnaround for you. But you said you started trying to run and you suffered with shin splints. Do you think it was a change in your health and your lifestyle that contributed to the fact that you could start running it again when you went back to it?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't know if I could weigh 200 pounds today and not have shin splints. I don't know. I don't have any like counterfactual, but I know that losing that weight was timed out exactly when all that pain dissipated. And I mean, I probably didn't, have the basics of, the ligaments and tendons and muscles in my legs probably were just completely shot from having, sat and worked for 10 years straight and not really been active at all. So whatever it was, it worked. But I don't have that big a tendency of going back, looking and really examining. I'm always pretty focused on like the future and enjoying the present. So it was hard writing that book because I don't like overly focusing on like past events.
Mm,
I have too much that I'm looking forward to and that sort of thing. But
mm,
um whatever it was, it worked. I still distinctly remember that treadmill 4 miler and being just totally shocked. And then the next day running an 8 miler and being like, yeah, tears were hitting the treadmill belt. And it was pretty cool experience to have not been able to run a single mile and wanting it so bad, and basically being able to put my mind to anything in the world and accomplishing it except for, getting past that 1 mile. And
mm,
I mean, also a standardized test that I couldn't get through professionally.
mm.
But yeah, it was quite an experience.
I love that when you started running, and it was quite a painful introduction to running for you. But your goal has always been the ultra marathon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
So,
was just testing my limits, seeing how far I could run.
was there any part of you that thought, I'm going to go the traditional route. I'm going to do a few road half marathons, things like that, 10Ks even. Was there any part of you that wanted to do that first?
I was like such a rookie. I didn't really understand how progressions worked. And I think part of it worked in my favor, part of it probably not. But I initially signed up for a half marathon. I think it was Cap City half marathon in Columbus, Ohio. And it just wasn't, I had done a long run of 16 miles and I was all about distance, not speed. Uh, for whatever reason. And I think a lot of times people put themselves in one category or the other, but um I think having lost the weight and changed my diet, I wanted to do a lot of slow running to build a base and sustain like a healthy lifestyle, not just, lose
Mm,
weight and then just go after quicker training and have cardiovascular issues. That was really initially my concern. But after doing a long run of 16 miles, a half marathon was like I'll do it, but I definitely put a marathon on the schedule and
yeah.
yeah, did that first.
Yeah, you recount that so openly in your book. I do enjoy kind of your process going through that first half marathon, because I think we can all relate to just sometimes just how tough you can find it, especially when you're expecting something different.
There's nothing like coming through the finish line and the music's blaring and there's like two families left. Looking around, there's one last guy rolling in. It's like
Mm,
right around the 3 hour mark of a half marathon. And like you're literally, it's you and one other person. And that other person just had open heart surgery like the previous year. And it's just like they hand you a bruised banana because the bananas are at the very, very bottom of the bin. It's like
yeah. Oh yeah,
real
I've been
depressing.
I've been there.
Depressing.
I've been there. I've been one but last, and it was, I was there for the experience, but it's a little bit soul destroying when you get over that finish line and everybody's packing up around you.
I still remember that Green Day song. It's like a very distinct memory that maybe it's a nightmare. I don't know. But it was it is what it is. It helped me get to where I am today. So I learned a
Absolutely.
lot. Yeah, I learned a lot from it.
It's all part of our journey, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about some ultra marathons, because you have done some amazing ultra marathons. You've even done CCC.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
How did you find that?
uh, I blame YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, and people are probably blaming me for a lot of the races they see on my uh
I think I
initial
saw
race
a
films.
little
So
video clip. It must have been on your Instagram or your Facebook of you at CCC. I'm not sure you sold it so well in that clip.
yeah, I went in expecting to be very American in terms of like the number of people, the crowdedness of the corral and all that stuff. And I didn't really maybe understand fully the enormity of the event, it being basically the Olympics of trail running,
Yeah, sure.
for a variety of distances. And they try to get as many people in there to experience it. And you have to be very patient at the beginning because there's going to be a long uh, conga line up the mountain. And
Mm.
looking back, that helped pace me so I could not go out too fast, which was a blessing in disguise. And I finally got to the halfway mark, and all the people that went out too hard were on kind of the side of the trail, and things opened up when I was dropping down into Switzerland, and it was amazing experience. The weather there, I mean, a lot of people complain and it's challenging, but man, there's nothing like it. I mean, maybe some parts of Colorado, like in Silverton, but it's it's a really
Pretty
cool
special.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I know that that's one of my races, my bucket list races that I would love to go to. But it's a bit of a process, isn't it? CCC, UTMB. You do have to go and get the points and qualify. So you do need to go out and get some experience under your belt.
Yep.
What was your first ultra marathon like for you?
Well, and I will add 2022, I'm pretty much 100% committed to UTMB. So I did
Amazing.
CCC, I accumulated all the points, and I took a pass on this year just because international travel, I wasn't sure how vaccines would be. It's just too complicated. So this year, I took a pass, but I will be booking a flight next year. So I'm really excited to do the big event there.
The big
Um,
one.
yeah, my very first ultra was the Thunder Bunny 50K in Athens, Ohio. It's run by an awesome race director, and it was like an old school race. Now looking back on how it operates, which is really cool. It was raining, and I was nervous as hell. Like going in, I really, looking back, I was overly concerned about everything because it was so unknown. I think it's probably pretty common for a lot of ultra runners, but first few miles felt good, probably too good. I think I probably went out too hard and just didn't have base miles in me to really, uh, have a great race. But then you throw a bunch of mud in there, and it was a struggle. I had not done like any vert. Um, and there was a little bit of gain in it. I think there was maybe 4,000 feet of climbing. And to me, that felt like Everest, having not done really any proper training. And so finished it. It was really exciting. It was, I think, like a 7.5 hour ultra 50K. I never had anyone ask me what the time was, but looking back, it's amazing to see just slow progression from that starting point. But you got to start somewhere, and I was very happy to start with a finish
Yeah.
and become an ultra runner. It was a cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that each event that you go on, I think there's nothing like learning on the job, so to speak. There's nothing that experience can't teach us. So the only way you're going to get to go and experience it is to get stuck in there and get on with it a little bit.
That's something I'll mention. So my dad's health scare not only got me thinking about healthy eating, but it totally changed my paradigm in understanding of time and how limited our time is here on the planet. And it really helped me lose the fear of failing, because it's like when you start thinking about how relatively short amount of time we all have, who cares about the time? Who cares about what other people think? I mean, if you're going after things and making a positive impact on the world, I mean, yeah, I never feel like I have enough time to look back and or be fearful of future events, because it's like, I got 30 years, 40 years, I don't know, but you can hear the clock ticking, and I mean,
Yeah.
make the most of every single day. So
I absolutely love that. And I guess that moves on nicely to my next point, which is you've kind of been really open and you've shared and you've got really stuck into the ultra running community, into the experiences, and you're very open. You share it all along the way with your book, with your docuseries. You've got your podcast where you talk to other people in the ultra running community. Is that something that you kind of wanted to get stuck into as you were going on this journey, as you are kind of living your life and going through it?
I mean, there was a point where it was like cool to share my experience, and initially it started with Instagram, and that was motivating me to get outside, to take one picture, because the art side of me was kind of non-existent when I started running. Like, it had been, I didn't have time for art. I was working so much. So, initially it was for me to motivate me to get out to run. And then it flipped at one point, and that was like I was in this super deep meditative flow during Moab 240. And ever since that moment, it's been about helping other people get to experience this, get to change their lives for the better, to show them like, hey, I'm a normal guy. I'm not some super athlete. I've figured out enough to be able to become an ultra runner, trail runner. Like, I think you probably can too. Like, so ever since that point in time, it's everything I do, every way I measure myself is, when I get emails from people that say, hey, I just dropped 100 and however many pounds, like this is life changing. Your book, your movie, whatever it was, your podcast, made me actually believe in myself when I thought only super athletes are runners. And that's why I'm doing this. It's not because of the money or lack thereof, as you know, like it doesn't, it's not, it's unfortunately such a niche sport at this time that it just does not have that much revenue. But I don't measure myself in views or downloads, or I mean, it's nice to check in and see the podcast and be like, oh, okay, it's doing okay globally. Like, that's crazy, because, you know, 5 years ago I couldn't run a mile. But the true measurement that I benchmark myself against is just how many lives have I positively impacted. And yeah, I'm thankful for everyone that had written a book prior that I obsessively read, and I'm thankful for all the movies that were made before to inspire me when I was on those early treadmill runs. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to pay it forward in whatever way I can.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think as well, when you've got a platform where you can share stories and you can share information, you can share inspirational stuff, that you should share it, because, even now I like talking to other runners about running and sharing inspirational stories such as yourself. But also in the same sense, I'm inspired if I'm out on a long run and I've got a podcast in and I'm listening to somebody else talk about their story and their experience. And I think that's amazing. So if you're in a position to share it, share it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm embarrassed to say I go through cycles, but I'm not sick of talking about my own running. But I think a lot of people subscribe or like look at Instagram or my Strava or whatever it is, and they're like, they want me to talk about myself, and they find that motivating and inspiring, which is awesome. And I don't mind doing that. And there's a weird realm where you have to be open to the point where you're like talking about yourself to the point of getting sick of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like having, built out some filmmaking to share other people's stories, because I just don't know how many more times I can, talk about a race I did. I am going to like build out a mini series on doing Leadman this year, but um, I'm trying
Definitely
as hard
should.
as I can.
You really should, because your docuseries on Amazon was amazing. I love that. And that was,
Thank you.
so let's try and I've got to try and get this in my head. Is it the Triple Crown?
Yeah.
Triple Crown, which is, for anybody who's watching this and doesn't know, it's 3 200 milers. Is it the specific three? So it's, which race
Yeah,
is
it's Bigfoot 200, which is about 206 miles. I think it's 42,000 feet of gain just in that race. And then within a 30-day window, you're off to Tahoe 200, which is 205 miles. I want to say it's 38,000 feet of gain. And then within a 30-day window again, you're off to Moab 240, which was 244 miles and 32,000 feet of gain. So within about a 60-day window, it's like 650 miles of racing,
it just seems
which
crazy, absolutely crazy. Because I don't know, I mean, how do you prepare for 1 200 miler, let alone 3 in that such a short space of time? Because it's not like you've got a couple of months to recover and go again. I mean, a 200 miler, that's something that somebody would do, what, once a year?
yeah, normally I saw it as like maybe the pinnacle of like actual sanctioned racing, like beyond doing the Triple Crown. uh I don't know, you could do some FKTs or run across the US or something to that effect. And yeah, to train for it, I don't know if you're ever really like prepared for 100 miler, let alone a 200 miler or 240.
Mm.
And I went about it sort of like the same method that I did for Thunder Bunny 50K.
Yeah.
I learned a lot the very first time I ran Moab 240. And that was after finishing CCC, that experience. I was just like, I had an open window. I think it was maybe 30 days after CCC. And it was like, Moab 240, like, am I going to have this opportunity again? I
Mm.
don't know. I don't want to look back and say, well, I should have done Moab 240 in 2018, but I didn't. So I went for it. I made a lot of mistakes and I learned so much, and it gave me the confidence to just continue. So
Yeah.
having the ability to do a 50K on a whim, uh, or sign up for a 100 miler and not being concerned at all because you can kind of problem solve through anything that comes up, is sort of like base level for at least attempting a 200 miler. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people try to go for it and haven't done a 100 miler, and they're really not setting themselves up for failure, but it's not going to be a fun experience. Like you utilize all the lessons you've learned throughout messing things up during 50 milers, 100Ks, 100 milers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I mean, it's never ever going to be a straightforward race, a 200 miler. So you'll go, or a 100
Yeah.
miler, anything of distance, even a 50K. There's
Yeah.
problems that can arise. And I guess it's your ability to deal with that. And whether you've been in a similar situation before, or if you can think with a logical head when
Yeah.
you're really tired and you're taking naps on the side of the trail, you know, whether you can deal, because I think that was something that came across in your docuseries. It was that, wow, I mean, you were exhausted at points, and I think, you know, I'm not going to give too much away because I think everybody should go and watch it, because I didn't
Thank you.
realize just quite how extreme it is. I mean, you had all weathers, you had different things to deal with, but what did come across is that you were very good with dealing with that situation, and you're quite
Thank you.
calm. You don't get, you know, het up about anything, because the first one you didn't even have a crew to look after you.
Yeah, that was an experience.
Yeah.
Going crewless for a 200 miler. I mean, that Bigfoot's, I think maybe one of the hardest in North America for 200 milers. And I think it's a whole mindset that you learn. You learn to be just hyper dynamic and be thinking as much as you can. The hard part of at least no crew solo for 200 miles, 206 with 42,000 feet of gain is sleep deprivation. And you can't, it's a crazy test because you can be super rational, but once sleep deprivation kicks in, I don't care if you're the most logical, rational human on the planet, like your brain is not going to be functioning normal.
No.
So it's learning how to cope with that and minimizing mistakes. And yeah, it was a heck of an experience. Were you able to watch on Amazon?
Yeah. So it's available here in the UK too. Okay. So yeah, I was watching it. You actually got me through. I'm in my little turbo shed where I've got my bike set up. So you actually got me through some bike sessions, which was
oh, cool.
Very handy.
Yeah, Ryan Clayton and I collaborated on that project. Ryan put it all together and did such an awesome job. I had the easy job actually. So just GoProing, and I'll tell you, there were parts where GoProing was the absolute last thing I wanted to do.
I could tell.
Trying to think here. I think Tahoe 200, first of all, like falling on my face.
Yeah.
And my first reaction was just like capture it because there's no cameraman. Like half of that race was just like, here's my GoPro. Do you mind like filming me go across the water? And like some random runner would help me, or positioning it on a rock so it looked like there was a cameraman there to get the angles. And but Ryan, when we were talking about starting that show, he's like, is there anything exciting that's going to happen? Are you just going to run these 200s and nothing's going to happen? I'm like, Ryan, these are 200 milers. There's always going to be something that happens. Like,
oh, that's for sure.
So it's how many times will something happen? Like it's pretty much guaranteed. So
yeah. And I think something probably does actually happen in every episode, because there's, how many parts is it? Is it 6, 7?
Yeah, 2 episodes.
Two episodes per race. Yeah, and I love that you said that you were asking, fellow runners, can you film me running across the river and stuff. I do think though, in this day and age with vlogging so popular, and I think people are used to GoPros in races, and actually kind of it's a normal now. Yeah, check us your GoPro. Come on, we'll film you going across that river. I know that I've been out and somebody's like, oh, do you want me to film something for you? Oh.
Who would say no? Like seriously, especially 200 milers, because the pace is so different. You're thinking about being out for days. So a little conversation when you're 150 miles in and you're in the middle of nowhere. I distinctly remember this guy Brad. We had I think we're at like 140 miles in for Bigfoot. And I'm like, do you mind GoPro? He's like, yeah, man. Like, we sat down, we were like sharing candy. We were eating candy, like going up the craziest climb on legs that have 140 miles in them. And it was just, there's so many cool like experiences that came away from that. But my only other highlight was I'm going through check-in for Moab 240 for the second time during the Triple Crown, and looking over and I didn't look over. I actually heard David Goggins say, like, Goggins, like, for his, they asked what his name was. And that was
a great moment, because you're almost a little bit starstruck.
Well, what's fun, in Ryan, his flight was delayed, or he was like trying to get a rental car. He wasn't there. So I'm like, I have my own camera. I give it to my pacer, Jenny, who's never done any film work her whole life, and captures like the weirdest, craziest moment. That check-in was just like, and asking him if he's going to sleep. And he's like,
I love
no,
that
I'm
question.
not sleeping.
It's Goggins. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't need sleep.
and I think 2020, the next year, he ran it And someone before the race asked him if he was going to sleep, and he's like, I'm not answering that question this year, because
Yeah.
he did,
Was that the year
he
he had a bad
trouble.
year? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can remember
So,
seeing something on YouTube about that. So yeah, I don't think that worked out quite so well for him.
but it puts things in perspective. So like, if you are a normal guy working, you have kids, you have just a ton of work obligations and whatnot, like, over time, if you just consistently get out for 5 miles a day and throw in some races, and you can find yourself at crazy places around the world, running some of the best trails. Maybe you're not going to, try for the Triple Crown or do a 200 miler, but there's still really cool half marathon 50Ks on just epically beautiful trails.
Mm,
And who knows, you might check in next to David Goggins, run 10 miles with a Navy SEAL. Like, who
mm.
would have guessed the guy that couldn't run half a mile just a few years ago would find himself like chatting, running 10 miles with a former Navy
Yeah,
SEAL. But I had put 7 miles in before earlier in that morning.
you had, because you
So
were doing a very special thing, weren't you?
yeah, it was weird. Um, but I also, I'm happy to be able to share that and hopefully give people belief in themselves that, you know, change for the better is possible. Like, I'm proof, like, you can actually change for the better. It's not just some infomercial or some sales pitch or anything. I don't care if you buy my book. I don't care if you buy the TV show. It makes no difference to me. Here it is, like, it's available for you if you want it. This is how I did it. So
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I really do. Let's talk about the ultra running community. Do you think that, because I find that I love that you kind of, like you say, you're the middle of the pack, you're not there for speed. It's about the company. It's about the beautiful things that you can see on the trails, the places it takes you to. Do you find the ultra running community, do you think there's more of a benefit to the ultra running community than, say, the marathon community, the road races that are there 4 times?
I mean, it's a good question. That's initially what got me really wanting trail running, was like minimal impact on my shins at the time,
Mm,
in injuries, because I was pretty injury prone starting off. But yeah, the community's everything. The trail running community, the ultra running community is awesome.
yeah.
It's highly supportive, and we kind of celebrate failure.
Mm,
So I think a lot more than the marathon kind of road running community, but I consider myself, I like road running too. Trust
mm-hmm.
me. Uh I was at one point going to try to run a fast marathon right before COVID hit. So
It's
I
interesting
like
you
it,
say that.
and it
Yeah.
benefits. Road running definitely benefits trail running. Having faster leg turnover, it's going to be hours of savings, like, on your body, if
Mm,
if if you have that running economy. Like, there's a real benefit to it. And I think
mm.
comparing Moab 240 in 18 compared to during the Triple Crown in 19, I mean, I ran it 12 hours faster.
Wow. Mm.
So but it takes a cardio engine regardless of what surface you're on.
I like
But
that
yeah,
you say that you like road and trail, because quite often the question comes up, do you like road or trail? Like, you have to belong to
yeah,
one kind of one camp. I'm the same. I'm the same. I like road. I like trail. So this year I've actually gone back to road. I'm trying to qualify for Boston. I'm trying to get a faster marathon time, with the view of it hopefully helping my ultra marathons down the line, because I feel like I just need to kind of take a step back off the trails and find some speed, because for me, trails isn't about speed, it is about the experience. So if you want speed, you have to go back to the roads. There are some amazing ultra runners that have natural ability, but yeah,
I
so
totally agree. I totally agree. And I think I've emphasized this from day one. Whatever excites you and motivates you intrinsically, you can't fake it. Like,
mm,
you cannot fake it. So if you're getting up in the morning and you're like, I signed up for this half marathon in 2 months. And I'm going to sleep in, just drink some extra coffee or whatever. Like maybe you didn't pick the right goal. So
Hmm.
regardless if it's an actual race or whatever it is, I mean, I'm all about just finding what really excites you
Yeah.
to get up in the morning and train so that yeah, you can build consistency and,
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of having fun when you're training. So
Mm.
there are faster workouts in marathon training that
Yeah.
maybe wouldn't be considered fun by most people, but I've learned to actually like some of the hard workouts also.
Yeah.
But yeah, COVID's thrown my training kind of for a loop, and I've tried to reprioritize life in general. Um, you know, but I definitely want to run a fast marathon at some point.
At some point, and
Yeah.
that would be your why at that. And I love what you're saying about your why, because I was talking about this with somebody the other day on another podcast, about how my why has changed so much. So at the moment my why is to get faster, but my why last year might have been something completely different. It's an evolving thing. You don't just have one why for your whole running career.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. You are a busy guy. You're a family man. You've got 2 sons.
Yeah, 2.5-year-old, soon to be 3, and
Wow,
a
that's a
six
crazy
year
age.
old. Yeah, having one 2.5, 3-year old is manageable. Having a 6-year old plus a crazy, kids, like
Yeah.
one can be so different than the other.
Yeah.
Matt is just a crazy person. So he's probably more like I was when I was growing up, just constantly needing to get out and be active. And
That's great.
he's a handful, but we love him. So
Yeah, absolutely. Do they come out on the trails with you?
they do occasionally.
Yeah.
They really like it. COVID kind of freaked them out a little bit, so they're still a little shell shocked
Mm.
um, from that experience. But yeah, if we can make it exciting, they absolutely love it. We have to kind of not necessarily trick them into going out and
Bribe them a
exploring. It's
little
just
bit.
how we frame it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
sure. My children are the same. It's weather dependent with mine. They're a bit fair
Oh
weather.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, my oldest son, he's a master at like excuses at this point. He's like, Dad, it's not sunny out. We need to wait until it's sunny, and then it's like, it's a little too cold today. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, buddy, like if you really knew what cold was like. So
Yeah,
I'm a big proponent of whatever they want to do. So
absolutely.
I think a lot of people probably look at me and they're like, oh, your son Ben like did a 5K. I threw a little video together. Just it was his first 5K last year, and I'm not pushing running. If they want to run, great. If they want to play baseball, great. If they
Mm,
want to do art or acting, whatever. Like again, this is major life philosophy for me. It's like pursue your passions. Life's too short. Like just enjoy your work. And my dad told me this a long time ago, like, if you're enjoying your work, you never work a day in your life or whatever the saying is. Like, I
yeah,
truly fundamentally believe it. Like,
yeah,
life's just way too short. And if you find yourself in a pattern where you're not enjoying things, it's definitely a signal like, hey, like reevaluate
mm,
what you're doing, and maybe it's time to change course.
yeah. I absolutely love that, and you're proof of that. Um, so you like the filmmaking, and you are very good at it, and you've got a new film
Thank
coming
you.
out, The Funny Runner.
Yeah,
Can you
it's
tell us a
funny
bit about
because
that?
you mentioned, if I like marathon, like road running or trails better. And yeah, it's about Brittany Charbonneau. She's a just phenomenal athlete. She made her debut at the New York City Marathon a few years back. And I don't want to give too much away about the movie, but it was not an ideal race. I happened to be watching the New York City Marathon and see her and just think to myself, like, oh, like probably meet her. She's from Denver at some point, get to pick her brain because, you know, she's an elite marathoner. And I had her on the podcast because all of a sudden she's exploring trail running in 2019 and 20. You know, COVID really forced her to even pursue FKTs and trail races more because all the big city marathons were canceled.
Yeah.
And so she threw down a really, really fast Olympic trials time in Atlanta. And but that was basically her last road race, and she's really transitioned to a lot more trail running these days. But she is so originally unique. She doesn't try to be unique. And her and her husband, Justin, are truly amazing people. And it was one of those moments where the more I looked into it and researched it, because half the documentary film is like telling some of the backstory, and I wasn't covering this, so it was hard to build that story together through pictures and like cell phone videos and tell the story. But yeah, once I dug more into it, I'm like, this is one of the most inspiring, cool, unique stories. I have to try to put this together. So we put together, it's relatively short. It's going to be 20 minutes, roughly speaking. So it's digestible.
Yeah.
You don't have to take a break in between or anything. And I'm just excited to share, really focus in, try to take filmmaking to the next level with this, but then also in my personal filmmaking, but have the flexibility and freedom to try new methods. I think that's why it's won some film awards, because again, my benchmark to myself is, can I inspire people with this film? I don't have to follow standard ways of doing anything. You know, as long as Brittany and Justin aren't offended basically with how I present their story, like I have full freedom to do whatever.
Yeah.
So I think this is probably the first film that actually uses certain lens flares with headlamps, and like it just looks, and it's kind of like it has a different feel because I'm watched so many trail running films and ultra running films that I just kind of get sick of the same way of doing things.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
love
excited.
that.
I'm excited with how it came together. It's going to come out on YouTube April 16th.
Amazing.
And I was close to putting on Amazon, very close to putting on Amazon and rolling it out just like the TV show. But I want to go wider audience with this. So I'm really, really hoping to get, a lot of views. I want to inspire a lot of people with it. And I think the half marathon road running community is going to love it. The trail running community is going to love it.
Yeah.
And the acting, the unique individual group is going to love it because, that plays on a lot of Brittany's fun kind of artsy side. The cookie making community is going to love it.
There's a whole heap of people that are going to love it.
Yeah.
Amazing. And what I will do is I will put all the links below so that people can check out. Is that going to be over on your YouTube channel?
Yeah. It's going to be on Training for Ultra. I'm giving Patreon supporters like a quick sneak peek of it April 10th. But then after that, April 16th, it's going live, and that's the way it'll be forever. So
it'll be out there.
Hopefully you guys can enjoy it. Hopefully you can enjoy it on your bike.
Yeah.
Your treadmill. Yeah.
And I love that it's quite it's not that long, but if you can prepare a feature length movie, that would be great, because some of my turbo sessions are quite long. If we can do 90 minutes plus, that would be great. I get through an awful lot of playlists on my turbo. There's a lot of people that would say, you got to be in the moment and focus, but it's my time to catch up on TV, because as you know, if you're busy with a family, sometimes you've got to squeeze it in when you can, and we haven't got all the time in the world to sit down and just kind of binge everything that we want to watch.
So I'm writing a feature film right now with Allison Powell, who's another ultra runner. So I think we're going to go a little bit bigger with that whole concept. So Might be a year or
Okay.
two away though.
I'll
But yeah, we'll
still be
get
on
you
the
through your
bike.
whole we'll get you through your whole session, I think, with that one.
Amazing. I think I'll still be on the bike. You know, I've got to cross train. I'm one of these runners because especially actually how we were talking about kind of injuries on the road, but now I'm doing more road in my training. Injuries are coming a bit thicker and faster. So I'm doing a lot of cross training on the bike. Not quite as forgiving as the trails.
I couldn't agree more. That's literally in the back of my head when we're talking about road versus trail. That's literally the only component where I'm like, it's just higher risk.
Yeah.
Because you're throwing down intervals and I don't know, Yasso 800s or whatever. And yeah, you gotta be careful. Stretching's more important, hydration's more important. Like,
Yeah.
you can kind of get away with not being good at nutrition at all.
Oh, that's I'm actually trying to be better with my nutrition, but I think it's something that sometimes we say, yeah, we're going to do that, and then
Yeah,
it doesn't quite happen that way. It will, but I think because at the moment it's winter and it's been locked down, it's quite easy to kind of fall off the wagon a little bit. And I have to say,
totally.
actually, thinking of food, the burgers that you were eating on your on your 200s,
All 17 of them.
wow. I mean, I would sign up to an ultra with those grill stations.
So after that race, I went vegan for like 6 months because I just looking at anything after that, I was like, I can't do this. I've since gone back to a little bit more normalization, but
yeah,
the first few were really good.
They looked amazing.
And it got to the point where it's like, yeah, Rob just wants a double bacon cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Like that was my base when I would like get to an aid station that had that to offer.
Yeah.
Because when you throw in like Bigfoot 200, 42,000 feet of gain, just climbing that, not even doing any kind of distance, like it just burns so many more calories.
Yeah. Well, isn't it like something like Mount Everest twice over?
Yeah, probably. It's insane. And what's really weird was I peaked out so well for that race. Like looking back, yeah, there were climbs that were awful, but Tahoe 200, I felt like was flat. And a lot of people, that's 38,000 feet of gain. I don't know if I'll ever be able to repeat that performance. Like truly, I don't know how that all works, but within 10 days of Bigfoot 200, I went out for a run and like PR'd my 5K, 10K. So
Wow.
like my aerobic abilities were going through the roof. My ability to recover was like hyper fast. And it was truly a special event. And I'm thankful Ryan Clayton took a risk on, I mean, that was like his main film project because he had to take so many days off of work to do that. And it was a big risk because I could have DNF'd at Tahoe 200 at mile 180, and then the whole project kind of isn't quite the same. So
yeah, sure. But
burgers though.
Yeah. I mean, is that a PR in the burger consumption?
If I have this over again, if I do another 200, I'm going to try to get like Guinness Book of World Records involved. If I come over to Europe to do like tour or whatever, I want to have Guinness like analyze, like I'll eat the same thing throughout the race and try to set like a world record on whatever French fries eaten, or whatever it is over that time period. Cause it has to be pretty close.
I think you have quite a unique record. I think it would take somebody pretty special to want to take that on. When you're flicking through the Guinness World Records, you're thinking, yeah, that looks like, something, marathon in a fancy dress. No, I fancy that. Burgers over a 200 miler.
I ate gels at one of my 200s. I can't even remember, for something like, I don't know, 70 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
that honestly might have been the highest number of hammer gels ever consumed by like one person just constantly.
Wow.
But it's funny. That's truly half the battle of 200s. So
yeah, I was going to say, because I mean, if I tried to do that on gels, I don't think I could stomach it. But I think I'd fare better on something like burgers. I think it's the fun part of the process, finding out what sits well in your stomach that you can kind of digest easily enough, that means that you can still move in a forward motion after you've consumed it, and it doesn't make you feel completely, I mean, you're not feeling great anyway, but doesn't completely knock you back.
It's all about hydration. So that's like fundamental 101 base. Like if you're out of whack with hydration, it doesn't matter what food it is, how excited or not, like you're just not going to digest it, because all your blood flow is going to be, your body's going to be trying to save itself and prioritize blood flow to like the brain and like the main organs to keep you alive.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Once you figure that out, it's more mental, like, because I think a lot of 200s is mental, more than physical. And I know people are probably like, yeah, whatever, that guy, because I was that guy thinking like ultras are mental. Like, what are you talking about? Well, once you do a few, it actually becomes less of a physical thing and more of a mental thing. But setting up like a schedule with gels and caffeine to keep yourself excited is huge. And then also, like Moab 240 during the Triple Crown, my son Ben wanted these bars, and they were like cookies and cream. I forget, some kids' bars. And I was like, I'll buy the giant box. I'm not going to let myself have any of these. These smell, look amazing. Like, I want these right now. And I gave them to my crew during Moab 240 so that I had something to like, yes, like mile 140, have that kids Cliff bar, whatever bar it was, like ready to go so that I could look forward to eating something different that I had like not allowed myself prior to it. So have like little mental tricks like that, or like download an album, like a new music album or whatever, to your phone or your iPod, and don't let yourself listen to it until you get to mile 17 during that hard marathon and you're about to hit the wall. Like, give yourself that little carrot to work towards,
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the lessons I've learned through all 27 of my ultras are directly applicable to if I run a 5K, if I run a marathon, whatever, if I go for FKT, whatever it is. Like, there's so many lessons that ultra running teaches you and trail running teaches you that will make you a better runner, regardless of even if you're doing a race or not.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Some great tips there. Whilst we're on tips, we're going to wrap it up, because I could talk to you all day, actually, Rob. I find it fascinating, all your experiences. But what would be, if anybody has read your book or another ultra running book, and they feel like they want to get into ultra running, that they want to give the trails a go, what would be your key bit of advice to anybody wanting to start?
I mean, it might sound weird. I'd say you have to be hyper patient, and I'm guilty of not being patient. But looking back, it was like, why did I rush trying to get to 100 milers so much? Like, and I ended up, I won't ruin the story, but I DNF'd my first 100 miler. And I would say consistency is key. You hear that from every running coach in the world, but it's really true. And I would say the key breakthrough that I've had with my own running is that injury prevention and not getting hurt is maybe even more important than gain. So I'm like a big believer in really small micro gains with like running economy, speed, all that stuff, and not giving it back with an injury. So injuries are so common. I'm like hyper aware of how my body feels. I'm not afraid to take a week off of running. Like, I'm not going to lose complete fitness with a week off. But just making every single effort not to have a massive injury that sets me back to kind of square one is what I highly recommend. And consistency will allow you not to get injured as frequently, but also don't be an idiot. Like if you just did some really hard effort, like don't go do Yasso 800s the next day. Like your legs are so tight, the injury odds are very high. Like just listen to your body so that you can prevent massive setbacks.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's something that I think you do learn on your journey. I've learned it a little bit too late, but you know, we're getting there. But I think that's brilliant advice. I really do. So you've got UTMB next year. What's this year?
Leadman.
Yeah.
So it's Leadville's 2 hours away from where I live. I've tried to get in the Leadville 100 lottery like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Never got in. And with COVID and all the uncertainties, I was like, let's keep it local. We'll throw in some biking because like you, I want to try to force myself to cross train. And I get a really cool marathon 50 miler, 100-mile bike, then a 10K, I think the next day. So I'll be very careful on that.
Yeah.
Per the hard effort followed up the next day. And then I think a week or two later is the 100-mile run. So, and to keep my wife happy, that is all that's on my schedule. So
wise, very wise.
And credit to her for being open to that idea. But that was part of the great negotiation of 2020 or whenever I signed up for that. But I'm also planning to go to Badwater to crew and pace a friend.
Yeah.
And I would think it's highly likely I will have my camera. So
great.
As weird as it sounds, I'm actually more scared to pace maybe 20 miles of Badwater than I am to run Leadman. So go figure. Hopefully I'll make it out to Western States for a film, but
yeah,
we'll see. I'm open to ideas on that front.
Amazing. Well, it all sounds very positive stuff, and I think it's lovely that you've got these things that you can do, you know, COVID permitting, but this year's so up in the air already that to have those goals and those things to look forward to. I wish you all the best for this year. I will share all of your links below. But where can everybody catch you? Where's the best place to catch you on?
Instagram is great, and then I'm making a big push into YouTube now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to take from the Funny Runner film, even my filmmaking to kind of next level. But I love filmmaking, so YouTube as much as possible, and Instagram. Training for Ultra is just what it is.
Amazing. Well, I will put all the links below, and I will be looking out for the Funny Runner. I cannot wait to watch it. I think it will be amazing. And also I do think that everybody should go and check out your docuseries on Amazon, because it will make you want to do epic stuff.
Adventures.
Thank you. It really does. I'm sat here in my little shed thinking, I want to be out there doing things, but this is a step to get out there to do the things. It's been a pleasure talking to you today, Rob. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, and take care. I really hope that you've enjoyed hearing from Rob today. Please do like, share and subscribe. Leave a comment below and let me know what you have taken away from today's conversation. I have added all of Rob's links below, so please do go over and check him out on social media and check out his new film being released on the 16th of April. We'll be back next week with another guest. Until then, stay safe and happy running.